This is Ryan Elliott for ID Boxing. We're in San Antonio with me, esteemed writer Jake Donovan. Jake, thank you for joining me. How are you?
Oh, Ryan, pleasure, man. I always love to come down here, San Antonio, a couple of states away for me. So anytime Bam is here, it's like it must be ringside for me.
Let's talk about it then. Bam Rodriguez back headlining this weekend. Could be a two-weight world champion at 23 years old. It was interesting listening to him up there. He said he's had a chip in his shoulder in this camp after the last fight, and people maybe doubting him a bit. Yeah. Do you think we're going to see a more significant, spectacular performance this weekend?
Yeah, it is weird to see that side of Bam, because I even joked with him last week. It's like, prior to even the Jigga Gonzalez fight, that he's like the one guy in the sport nobody talks junk about. Now all of a sudden it's like people are criticizing him from that fight. You got Juan Estrada jumping off the top rope to talk junk about it. It's weird seeing like people go after Bam and then like to see Bam's reaction to it. Now he's like, Estrada had a lot to say about me. I'm going to send a message on Saturday, go fight him. So I do like the fact that we're finally seeing that side of Bam, because he's one of he and Josh both are two of the nicest guys in the sport. So I do think we're going to see something special. He's huge on the history. It was important for him to come here, not just to become San Antonio's first multi-weight champion, but to do it in San Antonio. So yeah, I do really believe we're going to see something special from Bam on Saturday.
Obviously, you'll know better than us. We're more UK-based, but what he's building here, Bam, in San Antonio, how special is it, and how much is it growing as well from what you've seen every time he comes here?
Yeah, so the reaction to it last year was huge, and it's weird. It seems about the same, which says a lot. I mean, it's stormy weather. It's like people aren't coming out, but we saw at the press conference today. It's like they're excited to see him. My understanding is the attendance is pretty much right on track from when he fought last June. Obviously, much nicer weather. This is Easter weekend. Sometimes that does keep people home, so they want to go see him. But yeah, he does have this nice following. I think it's going to continue to grow. Eddie even said it's like after this weekend, if he fights, someone like Sonny Edwards or Julio Cesar Martinez, it's going to be at a bigger venue. He's eventually going to outgrow the Boeing Center.
Let's talk about what could come next if he wins, because Sonny Edwards has said he wants this fight for an eternity now. He seems he's got the hump a bit at Robert Garcia, suggesting they could go for the Estrada fight. But which, in your opinion, is a bigger fight?
Eddie is, I believe, look, I know Eddie's a promoter. He has to say a lot of things. I do believe he's sincere when he says he wants one champion of flyweight. He's been on a mission to try to unify all these divisions. So I was a little surprised at the order. I thought it would be Bam fighting Julio Cesar Martinez, or even Delakian, and then Sonny Edwards fighting one or the other, and then that becomes your finale. He wants to do Bam and Sonny Edwards next. That really surprised me. So maybe it just feels like it's a now or never. They just signed Sonny Edwards. They have to deliver a fight for him. So Sonny doesn't want to hear, I just signed with Matchroom and Bam's going to go fight Estrada. It's like, well, who the hell am I going to fight? So I do believe, even if they're not next, we will see that fight in 2023.
Short on Ray Ford, Eddie was saying to him, I was surprised you took this fight, and he almost was taken aback a bit. He was like, well, what do you want me to do? I want these fights. But good step up from good acid test ahead of if he is ready for that world title shot.
Yeah, I love Ray Ford's mentality. I don't know if you were ringside when he fought last year in Phoenix when Bam won the title. A lot of people, Eddie even told, Ray after the fight, he's like, he thought, it was like a very close loss. Ray won the fight by split decision. But he came right back. He had a tough fight here in San Antonio, beat an undefeated guy. He schooled him. And then, the big knockout win he had last year, he even said he wanted a big fight. He believes he's no longer a prospect, that he, Ammo Williams, Diego Pacheco, they've all outgrown that phase, that they're all now they're Matchroom's contenders. All of them signed with Matchroom right out the amateurs. One of them wants to become Matchroom's first homegrown world champion. Ray wants to beat everyone to the pack, so he wanted to fight like Jessie Magdaleno. He said he feels like he's a contender, but if people don't believe it, they're going to believe it after this weekend. So you saw it on stage, man. The feistiness, Jessie, he claims he's not coming to lay down, so we'll see what happens on Saturday with that.
I spoke to Israel Madrimov yesterday. He's been WBA #1 for, I think, 16 months now. He had the whole Sorrow ordeal that dragged on and on. Jamel Charlo's had injuries. But he kept making the point to me, look, I just want the fight now. I just want my world title shot. What is your understanding of the 154 pounds picture? Because there's a bit of a backlog of mandatories now. We're waiting on Jamel. What is your understanding?
So I asked Vadim and Eddie about this both, and they both just kind of gave this face like, it's a mess. It's a shame because Jamel is the one undisputed champion who actually wants to fight, all the mandatories, get those guys out the way. It was unfortunate that he broke his hand, that the, Zoo fight got delayed. It was weird that Zoo got to jump the line to begin with. But now Zoo's talking about, Jamel's not going to be ready when I want him to fight. So Zoo is now claiming he's going to fight in June. I don't know if that helps someone like Madrimov who, my understanding of rotation, that WBA should have been next, because I don't know at any point when that title has been consolidated. So, I love that Madrimov is get back in the ring this weekend, because I don't think he's fought since the Sorrow, the truncated rematch last summer. So it's good that he's getting back. He wants to he wants that title shot. Vadim one of my favorite managers in sport. He does business with everyone. He handles everything with class. So he's not going to go burn a bridge with PBC. But at the same time, he's like, look, we've done a lot of business with you. This guy deserves a shot. So if Zoo is saying he wants to get back in June, maybe, Madrimov with the win this weekend, he could be available whenever Jamel is ready to return to the ring.
Just pick this back up after a slight memory card change for myself. Look, I wanted to ask you about Spence Crawford. Differing reports from different people. Some people saying, we're getting an announcement, it's done. Some people saying, we're not there yet. What's your understanding of where we're at?
Okay, so if you asked me this question a month ago, I would have sworn the WBO would stick to their guns. They ordered Crawford, Alexis Rocha. Yeah. No way they're going to screw Alexis Rocha. They named him the mandatory. No way they're going to screw him out of a title shot. Then the deadline came. I asked the WBO, when are we going to order this purse bid? Well, all of a sudden, everyone got, the same information. Crawford and Spence were directly talking. I almost feel like it's similar to what we went through with Fury and Usyk. The difference there was the WBA had the balls to, call their bluff. They claimed they agreed to it. Okay, I need this in writing by March 10th, saying that, the terms have been agreed to. They met that deadline. Then the WBA said, well, now we need paperwork by April 1st, letting us know in writing this fight's going to happen April 29th. They couldn't deliver that. So someone needs to step up and do the same thing with Spence and Crawford. The one report I did hear, it was with Calvin Watkins. He was the one who broke the story. He said that contracts are being exchanged. I don't even know if it is at that point. I don't know if just different information is being fed. But he did make it seem like there was a contingency plan in place this time. Unlike last year where they just negotiated for months and months and months. They thought they had the deal. Then Crawford walked away and everyone was left without a fight except for Terence Crawford. So it does seem like if Spence is on board with it, that he would wind up fighting Keith Thurman. He has to fight one of his mandatories, whether he fights Keith above welterweight and the WBC is okay with it. He's in the same position as a stablemate. He's got a bunch of mandatories in waiting. So, but to wrap this all up, I'm just not of the belief that it's going to happen next. But I do kind of applaud Alexis Rocha. I know people aren't thrilled about the matchup. I think Anthony Young is a little scarier. Rocha should win, but it's not the easiest fight that people make it out to be. But I applaud the fact that he actually wants to stay busy. He's not going to make the same mistake that Errol did by negotiating with Crawford all this time and then being left without a fight. So I'm glad he's staying busy. It's a shame he's not getting his title shot. I just don't know what's next for Terence Crawford though if he's not getting Errol Spence. Because if Spence isn't fighting Crawford, it's because he's probably fighting Keith Thurman. So I don't know if Crawford's, someone joked, he's going to wind up fighting Blair Cobbs, but he was talking with Golden Boy at one point, so I just don't know what's next for him. So I was really hoping for that Crawford-Rocha fight on May 27th. I was checked out with the whole Spence-Crawford thing, once that, I never believed the fight was going to happen, but when they got that close last year, I'm like, okay, we're finally going to get this fight. Once it fell apart, I'm like, screw it, I'm done with it. They can go fight each other at 154, they'll just never fight each other at all. But I just can't fall into that trap again. But I did see, the report. I'm not going to throw publications under the bus, but people are reporting that the fight is done. That part is not true. It's not there yet. I know they're in talks. Everyone is hopeful that it can happen, but I don't know, man. I don't think we're going to get that fight next between them.
I know you're quite sceptical about it, but you mentioned there when you've got champions facing champions, the mandatory queue can become quite significant. Do you think if it doesn't happen now, it's probably never going to happen unless they move up?
I've always had a theory that it could happen at 154. If Terence Crawford, if he's serious about, moving up and fighting Jamel Charlo, then why not fight Spence there if Spence, gets a belt? And you would think that if Spence moves up to 154, it would be when Jamel either moves up to 160 or at least lets go of a belt. He's not going to move up to 154 just for the sake of it. So I think they will fight. I just never believed they were going to fight at welterweight.
So we're on Garcia Davis. We're getting close now. It felt like boxing was in a bit of a lull for a while, not so much in the US, but in the UK. We needed a fight like this, didn't we?
Yes, we did. It was weird. I was talking with other reporters before the press conference today. I said, I don't gamble, but if I did have to place a bet, I would have placed a bet that we'd see Crawford Spence, and then, that Tank and Ryan Garcia was never going to happen. So it did kind of surprise me that not only did Tank, get this fight, but he got his stay busy fight in January. Not that Hector Garcia is a walkover, and that was a competitive fight, but it was, he hadn't fought that close, in years. So now he's fighting twice in a 3-month span. Ryan Garcia made the sacrifice. He said, screw it, I've had long layoffs before, so he's going straight into this one, having not fought since July. But I'm still shocked that we're going to say, I'm like, where's the injury? Where's like the, not that either one of them have a drug history, but like you're waiting for something, disastrous to happen for this fight to fall apart. But it's sold out. It's going to be, I think this is going to be like a top 5, maybe top 10 gate of all time. A little bit north of $20 million US dollars. So yeah, it's a massive, massive event. I don't know how many pay-per-views it's going to sell. It's, piracy makes it so tough that you want to say maybe this is the fight that could do 1 million pay-per-view buys, but I've always had the theory this is going to be the big, even if Crawford Spence does happen, this is going to be the biggest pay-per-view 2023. That's my prediction.
Just on the fight itself, Ryan came out and revealed even though the fight's at 136 pounds, he's going to be limited to 146 the day after. Right. How significant do you think that'll be? I'm not quite sure as to how much he puts on normally, but I think it could be significant.
I think he kind of let that one slip just for the sake of creating headlines. He even brought it up. He's lean. I don't think it'd be a big deal. I think his last fight he was like 147, 148. He doesn't blow up that much, after a weigh-in. So no, I don't think that'll be a factor. I don't even think the 136, weight, for the day before weigh-in is going to be a factor either. I think it's just going to come down to what those guys do best in the ring. So I don't believe in all the intangibles. I think Ryan just kind of said it. Tank was already, I think it was like 3 hours late to that first press conference. Yeah. So Ryan was just letting stuff fly. So I don't blame him for that gamesmanship, but no, I don't think it'll be a factor at all.
I got to ask you, we've had another mess in British boxing very recently. It's been a strange 72 hours. Amir Khan, no one really knew, and then all of a sudden he's been banned for 2 years by UKAD for his positive post-fight test after the Kell Brook fight. What have you made of what we've seen?
It's weird. Like I think everyone shares the sentiment. I've always liked Amir Khan. Even like when he's trying to explain it, it's like you don't want to laugh because it's serious, but it just sounds comical. It's like I do kind of believe him that I don't know if it was cheating. I mean, I know he had several tests that he came up clean, and then he had that one test. It was like a minuscule amount. But it's like you said, look, we went through this whole thing with Conor Ben. We found out about that last year. Meanwhile, they're sitting on this whole other test. I just don't understand what is. I don't want to misspeak. So it is UKAD. That's the one that they're the cause of it. So, they went through the same thing with Tyson Fury, where he got banned a year after the Christian Hammer fight. Meanwhile, he got to fight for the heavyweight championship. It's like I don't. How is that protecting the sport? So. Kell Brook, now he's making headlines out of it. It's a shame. I mean, like I said, Khan, he's like, whatever, I got a 2-year ban. He's like, I'm retired anyway. How are you going to, ban a retired guy? But it's just in light of everything that we went through with Conor Ben, and it's kind of still going through because he's not even cleared yet over there. So it's just a real shame.
Problem we've had with the British Boxing Board using UKAD is the confidentiality rules. For Kell Brook to only find out when it was on social media. Ben Shalom says he only found out as well. Something has to change, surely, if an opponent and a promoter only finding out over a year after. Yeah, I was going to say, like, even rewinding all the way back to Dillian White, when, it was a big deal, like, Eddie Hearn was made available, but Yvonne Michel didn't know, Oscar Rivas didn't know. That really caught me off guard. Like, how does the promoter of the event not get told any of this? So, yeah, I get confidentiality clauses, but the key parties have to know. I mean, you could tell them and say, hey, look, sign this right now, but this is what's going on. Put an NDA in that situation, but to keep everyone in the dark, I don't even know what to say it. It's disgusting. Final one before I let you go. The return of Deontay Wilder. Have you heard any more than me?
No, not really. It's been all over the place. I know he was hoping once with Fury and Usyk when that collapsed. His team was of the belief that Daniel Dubois was not going to be able to return. Again, the WBA, the way they played it, I think it actually worked to Dubois' advantage, because if they ordered that fight the moment Fury and Usyk collapsed, I don't know if he had the medical clearance, to return by then, but I guess they're figuring the fight's going to happen June, maybe July, or whenever they negotiate it. That gives him enough time. He could have provided the paperwork. That was a big part with the WBA too. They said, they got the paperwork from Dubois. They went to the British board. The British board certified, the medicals. So he's cleared to fight. I just don't know where that leaves Deontay, because he thought he was going to be fighting Usyk, even though I never heard Usyk or his team mention the fact that he wants to fight Deontay Wilder. They said if they can't get Dubois, they're going to go to Hrgovic. They don't want, they have mandatories too, and they're going to have to fight. Maybe they're going to fight Joe Joyce at some point. I'm not sure any heavyweight is in a hurry to fight him. The WBC wants to put a time order Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz. I just don't get the sense those guys. I don't know if they just feel like that fight is worth a certain amount that nobody's willing to pay, or they just don't want to fight each other. But it's another fight that is available that neither guy wants. So maybe the Ngannou thing is serious. Maybe Ngannou does make his boxing pro debut. Deontay was scouting places in the Middle East, so that could be what's next. It doesn't sound like Andy Ruiz, and without we're not getting a fourth Fury fight unless he beats someone. So obviously, after the third fight, maybe they could fight each other again. But I just don't know his next move. he seems, intent that he is fighting, sometime in the next few months. But against who, that's completely unclear.
All right, Jake, thank you for taking the time after the press conference to speak to ID Boxing. We'll catch you soon.
All right, thanks.